Hey, you guys, how's it going? I hope all is well. Um, this has been a very interesting year so far. I know a lot of people are probably watching this and going, "Oh my gosh, we haven't really seen much from him in the last few months," and you'd be right. Uh, Around October, by the time I got done with the drawing videos, or I was doing a drawing video every day, I'm not gonna say I got tired. I'm not gonna say I got burned out, but I just really needed some time. Plus, I was in the process of transitioning between one job to another. And so, because of that transition, I really didn't have time to sit down and do YouTube videos. So, that's the reason why you haven't seen me in a bit. But I'm still alive um, and different things. So, I wanted to kind of share with you some things I read in 2020. Excuse me. So that way you can kind of get some things. Some of the things are indie books, some of the things are things that are like just out there and about. And then other things are more mainstream. We got a little indie love. We got some Marvel DC love too. So we'll kind of get into that. This first one, speaking of supported stuff, it's a little book called Stuffed. Um, Kind of imagine what happens when a little girl has her stuffed animals, and it's kind of her adventures. It's like a reverse of Calvin and Hobbes because the stuffed animals can talk to each other, but no one else can hear them. And so they're animated to themselves. And so, of course, the little girl with her crazy imagination just goes off and does whatever. And so this is the story of Stuffed. I believe the website to go get this if you're interested. If you like Calvin and Hobbes, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the best thing for you. It's done by a group called Extended Play. So, like, this is a style that's very comic book style. And so, like I said, if you like Calvin and Hobbes, I think you would enjoy this. It's not related to Calvin and Hobbes in any way, other than it's just inspired by them. I believe it's www.stuff.com. And so you can get that and pick it up. I want to read this because I just think it's hilarious. It's uh, Staffed is wonderful. The best comic since Kevin and Hops. If you like Kevin and Hops, you're gonna adore Staffed. How is that, sweetheart? Did I get it right? Written by the writer's mom. And so their response is, no, mom, you didn't, but I love you for trying. Welcome to Stuffed, the wacky adventure of several mythical plush toys and the irrepressible little girl who cares for them. The Stuffed style is a throwback to the classic gag comic strips of the late 20th century that includes Peanuts, Bloom County, and Calvin and Hobbes. The Stuffed world is one of magic, imagination, and whimsy, a childhood wonder created for the young and the young at heart, a world where anything's possible. So this is Stuffed. If you're interested in that, like I said, I'd highly recommend go grab it. I believe Volume 2 is in pre-order right now. And if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be a hardcover. So that's really cool. You can get a hardcover of this version too. I didn't because at the time I was like, well, which is cheaper? So just being honest. So that way. The next book is the next book that I got is actually something that's tied to this guy right here. Have you ever read Batman: The Killing Joke? Or if you saw that, I may want to bring that up. That god awful animated movie that they did, where the first 45 minutes of it had nothing to do with the actual story. So yeah, if you watch that cartoon, get in the comments. Let me know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? You know. But the book is basically just this interesting story about the Joker and the madness that he goes through. Just quick pop there. Boom. There you go. It's one of the quintessential Joker things. And so the reason that I got that was pretty important is because last year there was a book series that was, I'm not going to say it was a direct sequel to it, but it was definitely inspired by, oh, hold on just a second, guys. I had a video get started in the background. That was weird. But anyway, so this is The Three Jokers. And this is a series of books. And it had multiple covers. But basically, they reimagined what would happen if there wasn't just one Joker, but there were three instead. And so that's kind of how that goes apart. The third book in the original series had Jason Todd on the cover. I couldn't get that one because by the time I had gotten in, my store had My store had run out of those covers, so I got the one with the Joker. But there are a lot of different variant covers of that as well. But what's interesting about it is that it's tied; these are tied directly to this because there's some stuff near the end of this that's like literally ripped right out of these pages. So that was pretty cool. I think it's pretty neat. Then in the land of indie stuff beyond that, Jenica, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Jenica. Jenica was a character that I believe late 2019 was created. She was part of the world of the Ninja Turtles. She'd worked for the foot for a while, and then she got injured real bad. And so Leonardo gave her a blood transfusion. Well, when she got that blood transfusion, she mutated into a turtle. And so in this book, it kind of deals with something that it happens near the end of Ninja Turtles 100 in the IDW run, where there's a mutagen bomb that goes off, and it turns a lot of the residents in a certain part of New York into mutates. And so it kind of creates this interesting rift because Jenica's a turtle. She's under their guidance now and everything. And so, Master Splinter took her in and all this other stuff. Even before she became a turtle, she was a human ally. In this story, it's interesting because there's a point where somebody claims that there's a cure for the mutations. Is there a cure? Is there not a cure? We don't know. You have to read it. But it plays a lot with the idea of her being who she is versus who she was. So that's kind of that idea that goes into it. I think it's really cool. I think it's really neat. And I love Jenica as a character. And I really appreciate what they're doing with her. This is Batman White Knight. And Batman White Knight basically asked the question, what if the Joker went sane? And when the Joker went sane, he managed to do a spin campaign and basically where you find out Batman is a crazy one. And so Gotham kind of turns against Batman and Batgirl and Nightwing and all these other people. And it's interesting because this is a world that's different from DC. This is an Elseworlds world. It was done first originally on the Elseworlds label, and then by the time they did the trade, they adopted it as the Black Label books. So it's part of the Black Label, which means these aren't in the same continuity as the regular story. But Sean Gordon Murphy has created his own Murphyverse with Batman. So it's like, this is, I believe it's the third part now, because there was the White Knight, then there's the Batman Dark Knight, I think, and then the other one is the Harley Quinn series that they're doing now. This one I got because I really respect the artist. This is Marcus Williams' work, the Tuskegee Heirs. As many of you guys know, I like history. I love it when it's drawn well as well. And so it just takes the idea of the Tuskegee Airmen and it pushes it to the future where descendants of the Tuskegee Airmen are brought together as a team. And so there's planes, there's mechs, there's crazy monsters and stuff that they're having to fight. But then it's also a lot about having to trust each other and have each other's back because when they're brought together, they're kind of trying to compete to get on the team, not realizing that they're going to be working together. So it's a very interesting idea, very sci-fi-y. Here's the back cover right here, so you can kind of get the idea of like some of the stuff they got. So, but this is the team, and like I said, I love good art, I love history. So when you combine the two things, I tend to be down with both. So one of these I actually had a while back. This is Super Sons Volume 1. This is Super Sons Volume 2. Super Sons basically is the story of Jonathan Kent, the son of Superman, and Damian Wayne, the son of Bruce Wayne, working together in kind of a buddy cop thing on their own merit. Of course, in between this book and this one, Damian becomes part of the Teen Titans. So then there's some stuff that's going wrong with Jonathan's powers. And there's some people that are coming after Jonathan. And so Damian has to kind of get the team together to help Jonathan. That's a pretty interesting thing. I love the artwork on here. I love the idea that these two kids are kind of doing superpower things. You'll see Batman, you'll see Superman in it, but it's not really their book. So I think it's really cool how they pull those together. Like I said, the art's fantastic. The art that's on the covers is the same art that you'll see in the book. So Then we got Invincible, Volume 1, Family Matters, which is kind of a play on show Family Matters. But more than that, this actual book has been picked up by Amazon. They're actually doing an animated version of this sometime in the next few months. Like, if you got Amazon Prime and you've got Amazon TV, this is going to be on there. So you want to check this out. It's the story of Mark Grayson. I believe when he's 16, basically he finds out from his dad he's a superhero. He's not an Earthling. He's a Vulmanite. But stuff that he is told may or may not all be true. So he starts finding out what things are going on. And trust me when I tell you, some of the stuff that just shot. This is one of Robert Kirkman's early works before he started doing Walking Dead. So if you like Walking Dead, you know how crazy and twisty he can get with some of that stuff. This is definitely more twisty, but it's also more superhero-y. So there you go. So this one has a funny story that's connected to the podcast. So conversations about dot dot dot. Jingles Rasco and I were talking about the animated movie that came out of this was inspired by this book. And I had said I had never read the book. And he was like, well, you need to get on that because it's a lot different between the book and the actual cartoon. So I found a place that sells trades pretty inexpensively. And I got myself a copy of Red Sun. And so that's where this was. And so this is basically what would happen if Superman had landed in the Soviet Union, or not Soviet Union necessarily, but in communist Russia, with Stalin and so forth and everything. So, strange visitor from another world can change the mighty course of mighty rivers. Bend still with his bare hands, and who is a champion of the common worker, fights a never-ending battle for Stalin socialism and the international expansion of the Warsaw Pact. So you notice it starts off sounding kind of like a normal Superman story, then it kind of flips. And so again, it's an elsewhere story. Now, of course, with the different multiverses with DC, this version of Superman is probably still around somewhere. You just haven't seen it in books in a while. So, speaking of turtles earlier, The Last Ronin. Basically, something occurred. This is a book. This is the first book in a 5-part series. Originally, we were supposed to have gotten this book and volume 2 before the end of the year. We only got volume 1. So, volume 2, they're saying looks like it's going to be February of this year. And the way it's booking, it's basically every 2 months it comes out. And so, with this series, it is basically the question of what would happen if somebody took over the Foot Clan and wiped out the turtles, except for one of them. So that's kind of where this is. Guys, if you're watching this, by the way, get in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. But anyway, so this happens. Now, I'm not going to spoil who the turtle is because one of the main four, Jenica is not a part of the story because this story was actually written about 25 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. So this story would have been written well before Jenica was created. But one of the 4 turtles is left trying to get revenge for his other brothers and Master being killed. So which turtle is it? You're going to have to find it out. Now, I believe most stores by now, they have a third printing on this book, but you can still get it. If you just want to get it to read the story, you can get it at, I believe it's $8.95. Just go get one of those copies. If you're not into trying to do it for collecting purposes, I would not go on eBay and try to find a first print of this right now. Because they're still between $30 to $40 easy. So wouldn't do it. Just don't do that. This is World of Wakanda. I have not had a chance to read it yet. The primary reason I was able to pick this up was because I knew somebody on a place called the Comic Book Shopping Network. They had it for sale. And if you notice that right there, one of the people I had a chance to interview on the podcast, Afua Richardson, did artwork in this book and did the cover. So that's her signature on the book. So I think that's pretty cool. But I haven't had a chance to read it. I know it's the world of Wakanda. I know it gets into a lot of stuff with the Dora Milaje and different things like that. It also gets into the land of Wakanda, some of their society stuff and different things like that. So I find that stuff very interesting. This one It's the first part to a second trade, and this is the Green Lantern, Green Arrow book series done by uh, Denny O'Neil and um, oh goodness, and Neil Adams. There we go, Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. So this is two-part story where basically back in the 60s and 70s, there was a period of time where they got together and they basically went around the world trying to fix stuff because there was a challenge issued out the first series, the first book of this series, where basically Hal Jordan is, saving some people's lives or something like that. And then, he's challenged by a black man, to basically say, I see you protecting all these people, all these different other colors and races and things like that, but I don't see you come and protect us. And so basically, there's this interesting philosophical difference between Green Arrow and Green Lantern, where Green Arrow is more of a liberal, if you want to look at it from a political standpoint, whereas Hal tends to be a little bit more conservative. And so this idea was they were going to go together and go and try to, it referred to the arc is actually referred to as the Hard Traveling Heroes arc. And so they went through and basically they were working hard to address social ills in the country. So people could go in and think outside the box about things that affected people in the real world. So that was the goal. Kingdom Come. This is a quintessential book that is done by Alex Ross and Mark Waid. And just to give you an example of how crazy this is, it's all painted. The whole thing is painted. Alex Ross is painting all of it. And so it's really good artwork on there. And there are references to the book of Revelation. So it's really interesting how they play. Excuse me. If I'm not mistaken, Alex Ross's father is a pastor. And so he kind of wrote his father into the story as a watcher for what was going on around the world. It was Alex Ross's and Mark Waid's commentary on the comic scene at the time when everything was dark. You had, your Punisher books were going hot. You had all these other different properties that were just super dark and super dangerous. And there wasn't a whole lot of the fun of the old school comics that used to come out. So they kind of spoke to the commentary on that by doing it. Speaking of commentary, this is the second volume of A New Frontier. I've got to get the first volume. This is done by Darwin. Darwin Cook is the artist on it. And then Dave Stewart as well. Now, Darwin, I believe, wrote a lot of this. Darwin is no longer with us. But he said he always wanted to write a story with the superheroes in like the 50s era with McCarthyism and stuff like that. So again, you get a little bit of history in it, but you're also seeing the superheroes act in the different ways around the world at the time. And so like the superheroes are outlawed. And so they're trying to deal with saving the world in the midst of being, making sure they're not, considered illegal. So that's what this book is. Like I said, there's a DC animated movie on this as well. Speaking of DC animated movies, Gotham by Gaslight, same thing. This is what's referred to as prestige format. It's not like a trade. This was a story as it came. So you didn't go out and buy individual issues of this. This is the whole story in one place. So it was basically Bruce Wayne in the time of Jack the Ripper. And so you had Bruce Wayne running around trying to find Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper actually trying to find the Batman because he had heard of Batman. Batman was just as much of a legend in that era as he was. And so he wanted to be the one to kill Batman. So this is kind of that story of them going at each other, trying to find each other. XMen, God Loves, Man Kills. This is where they really started setting up the idea of like the purifiers. If you watched the second X-Men movie where you had, I can't think of the guy's name, but he was the guy that was chasing after Wolverine and he went after all the X-Men. This is where they built that storyline, those storylines up. And like there's a point where like there's just stuff it's great books, great little thing. And again, I don't remember, like this was considered a Marvel graphic novel, but I remember the books came out and then they immediately pressed it and went to a graphic novel format. So this is one of the first times In Marvel, if they had done this, I believe the first time they did it was the Death of Captain Marvel, where they released so many books and then they released the whole thing as basically a graphic novel. They refer to it as a graphic novel. Uh, Before that, you had trades, but no one knew what to call them. And so it wasn't until Marvel did that where they were like, we're going to call them graphic novels, and they started doing it, and that's when it took off. And then this book is the first of a series of books. Uh, Basically, DC is trying to show the other side of history to the DC universe, and what they're doing is they're putting out stories of people who maybe have been marginalized in the DC Comics world. And so they're going in and doing their stories. And so I'm going to pull this out for just a second. This is based off of the story of Black Lightning. So if you've seen the TV show, it's a lot of the stuff in there, but then it's also a lot of the stuff concerning the comic book origins for Black Lightning as well. And so there's stuff in there that you're not going to necessarily see in the TV show because, I mean, we just got to the place where they crossed over and Black Lightning even knows that the rest of the heroes exist in the real world somewhere. So that's the first part, I believe. The next part of that comes out next week, actually, and it's going to be Bumblebee and Guardian. If you ever watched Young Justice or things like that, you'll know they were a couple in the DC universe, but they also, I believe, Bumblebee was a part of the Teen Titans, and Guardian is rocked with Superman on some stuff. So it's pretty interesting. But those are some of the trades that I've had a chance to pick up over the course of 2020, and I hope that you will, if you're into trades and stuff like that and things like that, go check out. Uh, www.comicbooklocator.com. If you say, well, I'm not for sure where there's a comic book store in my area, you can go there and you'll actually be able to go in and find where those are. So that way you can find books and things like that that you're interested in. Um, I know there are a lot of other channels that do reviews. I'm not really doing a review. I'm just kind of talking with you because I haven't talked with you guys in a bit. So I just wanted to share with you where I was at and let you know I'm still alive and I will be doing drawing videos when I'm not so sure yet, but I'm working on it. So that's where I'm at the moment. So for all those who jumped in, I'm glad you're here. I would love to hear from you in the comment section down below. And thank you. And above all else, as always, do me a favor, guys. Be blessed, be a blessing to somebody. Till next time, take care.